Warning, this review contains a little foul language. It is not safe for those under 18. I know the majority of you are under 18 and will completely disregard this message, but still, I've said it. My conscience is clear. Without further ado, on to the review. This here's America. If you don't like our guns, you can get out. Welcome to the M4A1. Hello, I'm Raging Amish, and welcome to the M4A1 in Modern Warfare 3. If you're a fan of my reviews, then you know I generally tend to like American guns in Call of Duty. Well, this will surprise you then. I'm not a fan of the M4A1 and MW3.
What?
I know some of you are doing a double take right now. How can I not like this gun? It's the iconic M4. Am I high? What possible reason could I have for saying no to the M4? Unfortunately, I don't really have a good reason, and I do want to be clear, I'm just talking about how the gun performs in-game. Every Call of Duty seems to have that one gun where a lot of people love it, but I just seem to have the worst of luck. No matter how much I use the M4, no matter how much I try, this gun just seems to be my bad luck charm. As we run down the M4 stat sheet, I think you'll find the gun is overall good and remarkably well-rounded for all types of combat. I openly admit the M4 is solid on paper. In practice, I just find the rifle to be a little too inconsistent. My viewpoint, however, shouldn't skew your approach to the M4. I think my misfortune is 100% the result of a placebo effect. Once you get it in your head that something is bad luck, it stays with you. This review is an unusual video for me. Statistically, the gun is good, but in practice, I might as well be cursed.
So there is a curse. That's interesting.
Available at level 4, the M4A1 is one of two rifles available immediately with Create a Class. It would seem the developers must value tradition. In each Modern Warfare game, the M4 has always been one of the first two assault rifles unlocked. As one would expect, the gun is fully automatic with a decent fire rate at 780 RPM. To be clear, the M4A1 is by no means a bullet hose. For reference, the submachine guns and the machine pistols typically clock in somewhere around 950 RPM. Still, the M4's fire rate is pretty good for an assault rifle. You'll beat out other weapons in the class, including the SCAR, AK-47, CM901, and the ACR. While the RPM is good, the rest of the stat sheet for the M4 is relatively average. For instance, the M4 comes with a standard assault rifle mag at 30 rounds. Typically, a mag of this size is sufficient on an assault rifle, but I don't think that's the case on the M4. Since the fire rate is higher than normal, you will reload frequently and tend to run out of ammo. You should consider selecting extended mags or scavenger for the extra bullets. Moving into the bullet power, the M4 is again pretty typical for weapons in the tier. Up close, each shot would do 42 damage, and at range, the gun drops to 20. You're looking at a 3 to 5 hit kill. The weak damage at range can be a burden, but you must remember, the M4 has a good fire rate to help balance this out. Plus, if you hit the head, you get a 40% damage boost. This reduces the number of shots to kill at all ranges by 1. Still, the M4 is definitely gimped when it comes to ranged combat. On top of a 5-hit kill at long distances, the damage drop-off is quick. The bullet power starts to fall at 20 meters and completely falls off at 35 meters. For comparison, the AK-47 starts to drop at 30 meters. The M4 is basically the complete opposite of the AK in terms of gameplay, which is appropriate. In real life, the M4A1 has more controllable recoil, but slightly weaker shots with 5.56mm rounds. As for the AK-47, you've got a monster of a gun with powerful 7.62mm rounds, but strong recoil. You may better know the AK-47 as the weapon of choice for terrorists.
Ah, durka durka durka.
Moving on, this rifle does come with a lot of typical stats for weapons in the class. The movement speed is normal at 90%, the penetration power is average, the crosshairs are medium-sized, and the idle sway is relatively low. You can't get much more standard for an assault rifle, so I'm moving on. The raise and drop times take a turn for the better, thankfully. The M4A1 has the second fastest raise time in class at 750 milliseconds. As for the drop speed, it is also the second fastest in class at 450 milliseconds. When carrying the M4, you really don't need Sleight of Hand Pro. The switch speeds are fast by default. Keeping with the overall well-rounded feel, the aim down sight time is decent at 300 milliseconds. Quick draw can help, but honestly, the perk is far from necessary. As for the reloads, again, the M4A1 is remarkably quick. By default, this rifle reloads in 2.03 seconds or 2.36 seconds if the mag was completely empty. Either way, the bullets enter the chamber at the 1.1 second mark. These reloads are remarkably good for an assault rifle, only the ACR is better. I tend to use sleight of hand on a lot of my classes, but the M4 is an exception. This rifle really doesn't benefit that much from quicker reloads. Finally, for the recoil, the M4 is yet again solid overall. To start off, the recoil profile clocks in with a value of 50 upwards, 40 to the sides, and 20 downwards. These values are low, and on top of that, the profile is symmetric. If this recoil profile looks familiar, well, it should. These are the same values as found on the FAD. Brilliant! Countering the recoil profile is a center speed of 1350. This keeps the kick on the M4A1 overall low. You have a small recoil profile and a decent center speed. Recoil will not be a problem on this gun. To add icing to the cake, the irons are overall clear, but then again, that is my opinion. The rear sight on the M4 is a bit clunky and obstructs a decent amount of your view. I can understand how some people don't like these irons. Thankfully, however, you do have plenty of attachments to pick from if you don't like the irons, so let's get to it. Red dot sight, holographic sight. These two attachments largely come down to personal opinion. If you don't like the irons, obviously a sight makes sense. I honestly think both attachments are useful. The red dot is overall clear, and the holographic offers a little extra zoom if you feel the need. Obviously, if you do like the irons, then don't bother with either of these attachments. You really would be better off using something else. Again, I consider this to be a matter of opinion. Silencer. Admittedly, I have come to like this attachment on the M4. On paper, that doesn't really make sense though. The M4 has short range by default, so why would you want to make your range even worse? I guess I just like being bold and going against the grain on this one.
I like you. You have balls.
Actually, using the silencer does kinda make sense. This attachment lowers your range by 25% and removes your red dot from enemy radar when you fire your gun. As I touched on before, the M4A1's fire rate is a bit higher than normal. You can afford to take the reduction in damage. Also, the silencer reduces muzzle flash, which is especially good if you're using the irons. The best advice I can give is to at least try out the silencer. You will either love the stealth bonus or despise the newfound weakness in your shots. Grenade launcher.
What do you know about pain and sadness?
No matter how many times I see the grenade launcher, the conclusion is always the same. This attachment doesn't bring all that much to the table. The grenades are incredibly weak, which limits the launcher's overall usefulness. Still, I think this attachment is a good tool for taking out enemy equipment and the occasional camper. Other than that though, you'd be wise to use something else. ACOG scope. Believe me when I tell you this, just say no. The ACOG is designed for guns that are already decent at handling distant combat. Unfortunately, that's the M4's main weakness. A scope doesn't do you much good if you need to hit the enemy 5 times. I advise sticking with other attachments. Heartbeat sensor. I gotta admit, I'm not too crazy about the heartbeat sensor on the M4. Don't get me wrong, the HBS can work as it will on most assault rifles. Having radar on the side of your gun will always come in handy. I just have a hard time justifying this pick over some of the other attachments. If the heartbeat works for you, then by all means, enjoy. As for me, I'm sticking with other options. Master Key shotgun.
That's alright. I feel a little bit like dying.
I would advise firing your gun from the hip before I would ever tell you to pick the Master Key. Use something else. Anything else. Hybrid sights. I run into the same problem with the hybrid as I do with the ACOG. No matter how you try to look at it, the M4 simply isn't designed for long-range combat. To me, that means the hybrid sight is a bad choice. Don't use this attachment. Extended mags. In my eyes, extended mags is the best attachment for the M4. I think you can make a good argument for the standard sights and the silencer, but extended mags wins out in the end. This attachment increases your magazine size by 50% and offers an additional 45 starting rounds. I don't really care about the bigger mag. As we touched on earlier, the M4 has a fast reload. The big advantage you gain here is the extra ammo. 90 starting bullets just isn't quite enough. Extended mag shines through as the clear victor. Thermal scope.
You can't be serious.
Oh, I am serious. Look. This is my serious face.
Wow, talk about a complete 180. Why is the last attachment you unlock also the worst? I will not advise a scoped attachment of any kind. You need 5 hits to kill at long range, which makes this attachment an awful fit. Just use something else. While the thermal is crap, the good news is you have plenty of flexibility when selecting your perks. I found that pretty much anything can work, and that applies to all 3 tiers. Use whatever combination you want and you'll probably have success. Still, if you're asking for my personal preference, then my perk of choice is Recon. With proper class design, you can use Recon to highlight your foes and help you better assess how to tackle gun battles. The M4 is a very versatile weapon and can handle almost any gunfight, which makes Recon a natural fit. I also found myself liking Blind Eye, but this was a distant second to Recon. The M4A1 is accurate enough to shoot down kill streaks like the UAV and the counter UAV. With Blind Eye Pro, the M4A1 can become a reliable source for easy points. As for your red perk, I found myself drifting to Hardline or Quick Draw. Each of these perks encourage more aggressive gameplay and gel extremely well with Recon. Finally, I also like Sit Rep for the 3rd tier. The base version of this perk highlights enemy equipment, which gives you a red flag to use flashbangs and make better use of Recon. Moving from the perks into the proficiencies, I highly advise picking Focus. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of this proficiency on most guns, but it is a natural fit on the M4. Your recoil is already low, meaning your biggest obstacle will be fighting damage visual kick. Just look at your other options. Nothing matches Focus. The only other proficiency I would even consider is 2 attachments. With said ability, you can design a version of your gun that better fits your needs. Maybe you want a sight with a silencer. If that's the case, go for it. Finally, for your secondary, my opinion is all over the map. I say your secondary should be guided by your blue perk. For instance, Sleight of Hand Pro gives you quick switch times, thus making machine pistols an ideal choice. If you go with Recon, you want explosive power, so a launcher like the RPG or XM25 makes perfect sense. If you go with anything else, then I'd say stick to akimbo pistols. You want a secondary that can pull out quickly and save you in a pinch. End of the day, I stand by what I said at the beginning. The M4A1 is a remarkably well-rounded gun and can handle almost any gunfight. Still, as much as it pains me to say this, I am not a fan of how the M4 plays in game. I'm sorry, but the gun is my kryptonite.
You lose.
I openly admit that I don't have a good reason defending my viewpoint. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. I have rotten luck with the M4A1, but again, that's just me. It's a shame really, because this gun does bring something unique to the table. In my opinion, nothing in this game can match the all-purpose nature of the M4. If you haven't tried the gun already, I highly advise you check it out. That concludes this review of the M4A1. I hope you enjoyed and that you'll join me next time where I'll be covering Dead Silence. Until then, this is Raging Amish, checking out.